لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of the book Ta'lim wa Tarbiyat dar Islam, or Training and Education Islam, by the late Ayatullah Mutahiri. After a discussion about the way educational programs are integrated in Islamic acts of worship, then Ayatullah Mutahiri has a discussion which continues in the next lesson as well. Excuse me. He says, when we say Islam has principles and rules for ethics, for morality, we need to then define them. We cannot say, we should do good things, or we should say good things. It's not enough. Yes, this is the first step. But then we have to explain what is good. It is not good. We should give criteria to people. So he says, among different schools of philosophy, especially moral philosophy, there is a common idea. And when I say common, means there are also uncommon views. But there is a common idea that ethics or morality is a matter of resisting against your selfish interests, temptations, desires. Maybe there are 2-3 people or schools that they would be different. For example, he refers to the idea of Nietzsche, who had the idea that we should not encourage people to help those who are weak. People who are weak, they should be left to themselves. And even if they are going to die or to be destroyed, he welcomes. So he says that humanity needs to become stronger and stronger by looking after the weak human beings and keeping them alive and active and around. We don't let natural selection of the fittest or the strongest take place. Ayatollah Mutahiri says, like, for example, if someone is fallen in a well, they say that we shouldn't bring that person out. We should let that person die there, even maybe put a stone or rock on the top of the well so that cannot come out. It's an example. Meaning if someone is struggling already with a problem, we shouldn't help them come out. They were weak in the first place that they had this problem. This is their idea, Nietzsche or Nietzsche. But this is very much against teachings of the prophets. For example, this in the West was very much seen against the teachings of Jesus, Isa ala nabiyina wa alihi alayhi salam, which encourages to do charity, to be kind, to be loving and passionate. So ideas like these are very uncommon. Most of people, they say that ethics is a matter of resisting against your selfish interests and looking after others. I don't want to go into detailed discussions in moral philosophy to explain different general school, altruism, egoism, universalism, and then explaining, egoism is different from selfishness, etc. So we don't want to go to that discussion. But if you are interested in some series on moral philosophy in Islam, we have discussed this. This is one of the very, first and fundamental discussions. So in Islam, kindness, ihsan, is very important. Resisting your own selfish interest is very important. But then a misunderstanding has happened among some Muslims, that they thought this means that you have to fight yourself in its entirety, which means that then you have to fight your own honor, dignity, reputation, everything which is related to you. And it's only by getting rid of yourself 100% that you can be successful. In order to explain this, Ayatullah Mutahiri mentions 3 attitudes towards akhlaq or morality in Islam. In the book Self-Development, we have discussed these 3. One approach is philosophical approach. People who have philosophical interest in Muslim world, they have, like for example, even in Jamu Sa'adat or Miraj Sa'ada, you find traces as this in some works of Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi. So they try to come up with a philosophical system which can be to some extent Aristotelian. Sometimes there are also things which are related to Socrates. So it's a philosophical tradition. Of course, Muslims try to expand and develop. So they discuss about faculties of the soul, about the balance in each faculty and the extremes, the virtues and vices related to each faculty. So this is a philosophical approach, which is very good, very intellectual, but it's a little bit dry. It's not very engaging because it's more using concepts in universal concepts, which may not be very appealing and engaging for ordinary people. For philosophers, maybe yes, but not for ordinary. The second approach is the mystical approach, Arifane or Irfani. And this is where they very much talk about a journey, a spiritual journey. They talk about the stations and how we have to go one by one into different stations, what you experience in different stations, what you have to be careful, what you have to do so that you can be upgraded to the next station, etc. And they have done lots of services also to Islamic ethics, and Orafa have had great contributions. But of course, no human being is perfect unless it's receiving revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at the same time that he admires this approach, but it's not perfect. The third approach is hadith-based approach. Again, in some book, Jamu Sadat has this as well. We have lots of references to the Quran and hadith. And in this approach, they normally list the virtues and vices. There is no necessarily a hierarchy. There is no necessarily a journey, a spiritual journey. They deal with all the things. Ayatullah Mutahiri, in his introduction to Irfan, says the difference between the two approaches, between Irfani and Akhlaqi, based on hadith, is in Irfani is like a growth, like a flower growing, like a tree growing, like a child growing, becoming an adult. But in akhlaqi is like a house you want to furnish. There is no need to start from certain room or certain floor. And you remove all the unwanted or things which are unclean, you know, any furniture which is not needed, you remove it, takhliya, evacuation, and then you clean and bring nice furniture, and then it starts shining. So we have takhliya, then we have tahliya, and then we have tajliya. If you are interested, you can refer to Introduction to Islamic Irfan system. We have a series on that also. So in the Islamic world, basically we can say we have generally three approaches, although there's a synthetic approach that I have mentioned in the paper on this, and which is published in Self-Development, which is trying to bring all good things of these together, like Imam Khomeini's approach in 40 hadith, for example, or Allama Tabataba'i's approach in some works. Ayatullah Mutahiri says one of the things that not all Urafa, but some with this mystical approach, some Sufis, for example, have not got it right, is that they think in order to get rid of our selfishness and ego, we need to fight anything inside us, anything which is important for us, including our own honor and dignity. Some people, not all, but some have gone to this extreme. For example, it is said that Ibrahim Adham, a famous Sufi, he had this approach. He says, 3 times in my life, I became very happy. It's like as if he saw signs of success or progress, at least. Once was when I was traveling on a ship, and we were there, and there was a person, like an actor, who wanted to, you know, make a kind of play and make people also laugh. He was explaining that we were fighting somewhere and we were soldiers, and then we were, for example, taking people or arresting people like this. When he wanted to show how they were dealing with people that they were taking and arresting, which was not respectful, of course, he looked around to take someone and bring him front so that he can show what they were doing to those, you know, poor people. And Ibrahim Atam says he took me and forcefully, you know, brought me in front of others to, you know, operate his theater on me. So he says, I was very happy that because he found me the least important person. He found me someone that he can, you know, do these things with him. Or another time I was, he says, Ibrahim Atam, or it is, you know, attributed to him. Another time that I was very happy was when I was ill in a mosque. And the muazzin, who was also caretaker of the mosque, wanted to ask people to leave. It was not the time of salat, and it was saying, everyone should leave now, finished. We want to close. But I was ill, and he saw that I am ill, I am not able to move. But he took my leg and pulled me outside. So I was very happy that he didn't mind to do this unit. So I appeared to him as someone who has no significance, no value. And the third, he says, once I looked at my cloak, for example, abba or dress, and I saw there are more insects than, you know, pieces of, you know, wool or hair in my clothes. It was a woolen, you know, cloak. There are so many insects. So, Ayatullah Mutahiri says this is not Islamic. This is not the way to achieve sincerity, to get rid of hubbul dunya or hubbul jah, love for dunya, love for, position, love for, people's appreciation. It is not the way to become sincere and pure. Islam says you cannot compromise about your dignity. You can, and you should give your money away, for example. Okay? Of course, there are, some regulations. You don't become bankrupt, for example. But, it's good to give away your comfort, your time for the sake of people, But you cannot give away your honor and dignity or your respect. You cannot let people do zulm to you. You cannot volunteer and say, whoever wants to make zulm, I am here. I'm the least significant person. Do your zulm on me. No. Then Ayatullah Mutahiri mentions something that he is very, maybe we can say kind of pioneer in this, although the idea existed before, but maybe he's the one who expanded it a lot. Rahmatullah alayh. And that is that we can say in Islam we have two khud or self, two selves inside us. One is lower self, and we have to get rid of it. We have to oppose it. We have to prohibit that nafs from temptations. Quran says, "Man khafa maqama rabbihi wa naha an-nafsa 'anil hawa, fa innal jannata hiya al-ma'wa." The one who fears the position of his Lord and stops nafs from going after her whims. This is nafs ammara. Inna an-nafsa la'ammaratun bis-su' illa ma rahim. This nafs we should disobey, we should oppose. A'da aduwwik nafsuka allati bayna jambayk. Your most hostile enemy is your own nafs, which is inside you. And therefore, the greatest jihad is jihad against our nafsa ammara, our vicious soul. Okay? But on the other hand, Islam says that we have another nafs, which is our real nafs, our true human soul, our God-given soul, the one that Allah says, nafakhtu fiha min ruhi. This is not to become nafs ammara. This is to become nafs mutma'innah. And this nafs is in us, and we have to cultivate, we have to grow, we have to let it flourish. And this nafs is responsible for our dignity and honor. So you have to work after flourishment of this nafs, real nafs. The lower khud or self or nafs ask you to do bad things because you get some pleasure. But the true nafs, nafs elvi, the higher nafs, actually asks you not to do bad things and says you are more important than these little pleasures you get. So lots of emphasis is put in Islam on karamat nafs, izzat nafs, to have honor. You should respect your own honor and also deal in the way that others also respect your honor. It's very important. He mentions some hadiths which are very beautiful. For example, in Nahjul Balagha, one hadith, I have quoted also some of these hadiths in self-knowledge. Man karumat alayhi nafsuh, hanat alayhi shahawatuh. This is Hikmah 441, Wise Sayings or Kalamat Qisar 441. من كرمت عليه نفسه, whoever has respect for himself, who has high regard for himself or herself, هانت عليه شهواته, then the lower desires become very weak. He can or she can easily resist. You know, sometimes people who come from very noble families, yeah, they automatically don't go to bad places, or, you know, don't eat everything, don't meet everyone, because there is a sense of nobility that they think they are above, you know, doing bad things. Or when you are very clean, imagine you have, you know, just come from, you know, taking, you know, proper shower, you know, 1 hour, you know, you have washed yourself, you know, etc. And then you have very clean or new dress on you. Then you don't go to a place which is, you know, to a garage, for example, you know, that people are, you know, repairing cars, for example. There is oil, there is, you know, gasoline, you know, dust. You try to go to places that are clean. So, whoever has high regard for himself or herself and values the dignity which Allah has given him or her, would find it easy to resist against temptations. On the other hand, Imam Hadi alayhi salam says, "Man hanat alayhi nafsuh, fala ta'man sharra." And if someone doesn't have that high regard for himself or herself, then Imam says, don't feel safe with respect to the bad coming from them. If someone has no inner respect and honor and nobility, expect him to do everything. Mean people can tell lies, can, you know, do everything against you, if it suits them. In hadith of Aql and Jahl in Tuhaful Ghul says, La deena liman la muruwwata or la muru'ata lah. Muruwwat, or in muru'ah, means to be noble. In Farsi we say Jawan Mardi. Of course it can be for women as well. Jawan Mardi or muru'ah means like Fotowat. Fotowat is also similar. Means to be noble. For example, as a noble person, you would not tell lies. You would not promise someone and then, you know, break your promise. As a noble person, you would not backbite people who are not present. As a noble person, even if someone is causing you problem, you would not do bad to the family of that person. Those things that automatically noble people don't do. So hadith says, if someone has no muru'ah, no nobility, has no iman, no deen, no religion. Wala muru'ata liman la aqla lah. If someone has no aql, cannot have muru'ah and nobility. Aql is needed, because as long as you go just by emotions, you cannot be noble. In Nahjul Balagha, it says, قَدْرُ الرَّجُلْ عَلَىٰ قَدْرِ هِمَّتِهِ. The value of every person is based on high ambition that that person has. If someone's ambition is, you know, some money, some, you know, job, car, land, farm, okay, that's his value. But if someone is not even happy to get the whole world and compromise about his values, this person's value is above dunya. In the previous hadith, it says in Tuhaful Ghul, إِنَّ أَعْظَمَ النَّاسِ قَدْرًا مَنْ لَا يَرَى الدُّنْيَا لِنَفْسِهِ خَطَرًا. Among people who have the highest degree of, you know, value and perfection are those that they don't see the whole dunya something significant. The whole dunya. You are all familiar with this beautiful saying of Amir al-Mu'mineen. وَاللَّهِ لَوْ أُعْطِيتُ الْأَقَالِيمَ السَّبْعَ وَمَا تَحْتَ أَفْلَاكَهَا أَلَا أَنْ أَعْصِيَ اللَّهَ فِي نَمْلَةٍ أَسْلُبْهَا جَلْبَ شَعِيرَةٍ مَا فَعَلْتُ. If I am given all the 7 continents and whatever is between them and the sky, so that I take the peel of a barley from an ant, I would not do it. Because Ali has respect for his own nobility and wouldn't do such thing. Even doing zulm to an ant is against his character and values. You can give him whole dunya, he would not do it. He would not even think about it. Then he says, more explicit is the wasiyah, the will of Imam Ali to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Over there we find akram nafsaka an kulli dani. Honor yourself with respect to any ugly thing. وَإِن سَاقَتْكَ إِلَى الرَّغَائِبِ. Even if that bad thing, ugly thing is leading you towards some pleasure, something you like. But if it is bad, leave it. Why? A beautiful argument. فَإِنَّكَ لَن تَعْتَاظَ بِمَا تَبْذُلُ مِن نَفْسِكَ عِوَضًا. You are not going to take in return of what you are losing from yourself something valuable. So when we do something bad, we are losing some of our honor, our value, our dignity. Is there anything from dunya that can replace that? No. So Amir al-Mu'minin says, then don't do anything bad. Or Amir al-Mu'minin also says in Nahj al-Balagha, letter 31, وَلَا تَكُنْ عَبْدَ غَيْرِكَ قَدْ جَعَلَكَ اللَّهُ حُرًّا. Don't be slave of any person. Don't let people enslave you. Allah has made you free. The value of freedom. He says, among poems, the only person that has very much explained and highlighted the idea of finding your own self and returning to your own self is Iqbal. You know, the idea of khud and khudi in Iqbal. And alhamdulillah, many of you are familiar with Iqbal. So he says, he is the only poem that, at least up to the time that Ayatullah Mutahiri was speaking, to his knowledge, that very well highlighted the value of khud and khudi. And I think for Iqbal, it was not only also individual khud, it was also khud of the ummah, and returning to our own, values and our own, honor and dignity. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, وَلَا تَكُنْ فَضًّا غَلِيظًا يَكْرَهُ النَّاسِ قُرْبَكَ. Don't be a harsh person, hard-hearted person. Or Allah says to the Prophet, لَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Imam says, don't be a harsh and hard-hearted person, because then people يَكْرَهُ النَّاسِ قُرْبَكَ, don't like to be close to you. But on the other hand, when we say don't be harsh, we don't mean don't be a very useless person and weak person that everyone can put his foot on you. وَلَا تَكُنْ وَاهِنًا يُحَقِّرُكَ مَنْ عَرَفَكَ. And don't be wahin, from wahn. Wahn means weakness. Quran says, la tahinu. La tahinu means don't be weak. So, don't be harsh, but don't be also weak. Some people think to be strong means to be harsh. Many times I have said that you have to be strong, but not harsh. There's a difference between the two. You can be very strong and soft. Amir al-Mu'minin says in Khutbat al-Muttaqin, من علامة أحدهم أنك ترى له قوة في دين وحزما في لين. Among the signs of Muttaqin is that they have strength in Iman, in religion, but they have farsightedness and lean. They are gentle. They are lenient. Mu'min should, like Rasulullah, be strong, but also layyin. بما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. So Imam Sadiq says, don't be harsh and don't be weak. So unfortunately, in some, not all, in some Sufi teachings, not all, some of them, in order to resist against ego and selfish interest, they have lost the limits. The balance is missing. And they say, no, just oppose yourself, fight yourself. Not distinguishing between two types of self that we have. Nafs ammare, okay, oppose it. But we have nafs rahmani, we have inside us fitra, we have dignity, we have honor. And we need to cultivate this. He says, Junaid, one of the Sufis, it is reported that he said these sentences. Some of them we can accept, some of them we cannot accept. He says, لا يكون العارف عارفا حتى يكون كالأرض يتأه البر والفاجر. He says, Arif doesn't become Arif unless it's like the land. Good people and bad people put their feet on the land, and the land or the earth doesn't mind. He said, Arif should be like this. Ayatullah Mutahiri says, this is not good to say that everyone, should be able to put his feet on you. If it is taken in its apparent sense, maybe Junaid didn't mean it in that way, that you should let people to do zulm to you, to do bad to you. I don't know what he meant, but the apparent meaning is not very nice. But then he says, Arif should be kasahabin yudhillu kulla shay, like a cloud that provides shadow over everything. When cloud comes, good people, bad people, animals, I don't know, everything benefits from that shadow. Arif should be like this. Okay, this is good. Or kalmatar yasqi ma yanbut wala yanbut. When rain comes, the rain reaches the things that grow and the things that don't grow, or the land which grow or land which doesn't grow. Anything benefits from the rain. So Arif should be like this. So if it means that Arif should be a manifestation of Rahmaniyya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course this is good. But we have also to make distinction between some people who need to be more loved and more helped, plus not by compromising your dignity. So three things. Be manifestation of Allah's inclusive rahmah, Rahmaniyya, for all. But two things to be observed. One, there are people that need more attention. There are people that need more help. We have more responsibility towards them. And also never compromise about your dignity. Don't let people to do zulm to you. Yes, Arif doesn't get easily angry. Arif doesn't get easily upset or provoked. He's very much calm. Many things that people think it's a big deal and they have to fight, Arif ignores. But Arif doesn't ignore someone who is systematically doing zulm to him. If it's a mistake, it's okay. But if it is systematic, Arif responds. But with calmness, with control of what he says, what he does, with hikmah, not just releasing his anger. Okay, alhamdulillah, we finished this part. Inshallah, we continue this discussion about karamat al-nafs in the Quran and Hadith in the next lesson. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Jazakallah.
May Allah bless you.
Yeah, do we have any question?
So the title for the next session, inshallah, is Karamat al-Nafs in the Quran and Hadith.
Okay, thank you all.
You're welcome.
Yes, Sister Batu.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank you for your lecture.
May Allah bless you.
My question is, how can we differentiate between self-respect or khudi and arrogance? And how can we monitor in ourselves?
Yeah. This is why, it's a good question. This is why we need to be always alert and observe ourselves. Muraqaba is very important. Self-monitoring. Because nafs can deceive us. You want to be arrogant, the nafs says, this is just respect and honor that you should keep for yourself. Or the other way around. You want to be a dignified person, nafs says, no, this is arrogance, this is pride. So we need to continuously check ourselves and shed light of Quran, of Hadith, teachings of ulama, getting advice from other mu'mineen. Sometimes, maybe I cannot understand myself because I am part of this. I can talk to someone else. If there is an alim, even sometimes if there is no alim, but someone like me who is not biased, I can say, if possible, if details are okay to be shared, that, for example, this situation, do you think this is arrogance or this is just a way that I want to preserve my respect? Yeah. So many times we are attached to our own cases and we cannot be objective, but someone else who is wise, someone else who is not also, biased, can tell us that this is not arrogance, this is arrogance. So we need always to help each other. Mu'mineen, tawasaw bil haq wa tawasaw bis sabr. We need benefit from each other's, also perspective. Al-mu'minu mir'atul mu'min. Mu'min is a mirror for another mu'min. Of course, not everyone, but people who are mu'min, people who can be trusted. So you need to be always alert and look for details. What are the details of arrogance? What are the details of respect and honor? In the books of akhlaq, these are mentioned, but If you are a very sensitive person and train yourself, inshallah, little by little, you would be able to understand. And if it's not clear, then don't take a risk on these issues. For example, if you are not sure this is arrogance or not, because the chance of being arrogance is more, so suppose that this is arrogance. Unless you have become a person that is now very much trained not to be arrogant, and then it becomes, waswasi, doubts a lot and loses the balance, then take the other side. But most of people, because they easily dismiss problems, so they should think that this is a problem unless it is proved otherwise.
Thank you very much.
May Allah bless you, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Like in this chapter, the way it is described is
Yes.
as if we have a higher self and a lower self, one that is nafs-e amara and the other that urges us to do good. I thought nafs was one and it goes through stages, like nafs-e amara, lawama, mutmainne, these kind of things. So is this fitriyat we are talking about when we talk of higher self?
There are two different discourse. One is to say we have three types of nafs: nafs ammare, nafs lawwame, nafs mutmainne, and they don't exist at the same time. So you have nafs ammare, then becomes nafs lawwame, then becomes nafs mutmainne. But the other thing is we have two dimensions in each person. Even if someone is in the state of having nafs ammare, still this person has that higher nafs as well, which is because of fitra, which is because of the nafakhtu fihi min ruhi, because of our humanity. So every human being, even people who are bad, they have been given that higher self. But that higher self is buried, is covered, is not functioning, but it's there. And maybe one day comes out, maybe one day is freed. So we need to then distinguish between that dimension or that level of nafs, which is more closer to our being animal, and the other which is more closer to being a human. And these are at the same time. So you can say different levels or different dimensions of our nafs, because according to Mullah Sadra, we have only one nafs, and all these are different faculties and aspects of one nafs. It's not that inside us there are two nafs, two selves. And nafsu fi wahdatiha kullul quwa. Nafs in its unity has all these faculties.
Thank you, Sheikh. And in regards to izzat-e nafs,
Yes.
now it is said that a moment is not allowed to let themselves be humiliated by anyone else as well.
Yes.
But how do we make a distinction? Because sometimes you think you are doing sabr and you think that I used to, like, even when people were abusing Imam Hassan, was making them their guests and all those kind of things. What is the limit for a moment to take humiliation or insults? And when would it be like not honoring your nafs, and when it would be in the category of doing sabr and being patient?
Yeah. So this is related to the issue of forgiveness or pardon in Islam. Certainly in Islam, this is a virtue that if people wrong us, we are able to forgive them. And this is what, as you said, you find the teaching of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam. My understanding is this, that first of all, you shouldn't get quickly offended. Sometimes people, for example, if they go to someone's house and that person doesn't visit them, they say, they are humiliating us. My honor is, no, leave it, maybe that person has excuses, maybe they are not, able to, for some reason, go outside, or maybe they come, but they cannot invite you. These are not important. Or some people, for example, when I said salam, they didn't send a proper salam to me back, or when I entered, no one, gave me a space. So people easily get offended. We should not get easily offended. We should not think about this issue. Who brought me gifts, who didn't bring, or I took this gift, they brought me something less valuable. These are childish things. We have to go above these things. Then it comes to real harm, that's maybe husband, wife, I don't know, in-laws, children. Sometimes their akhlaq is not very good, or they have good days, bad days, These things also, I think, most of the time we should forget. Not only forgive, we should forget. But if there is someone who is deliberately, systematically, has planned to harm me, to wrong me or my children, then here we should take a stance. Of course, with calmness, with wisdom, considering also that person also, I want to improve that person. I don't want to destroy that person. Sometimes when someone wrongs me, then I may overdo. Many times mazloom becomes zalim. Someone did one bad thing to me, I make 10 bad things to him. This is very bad. Many times actually people overdo. So if there is deliberate, systematic, ongoing wronging, then we should take a stance. But by taking time, by thinking, maybe sometimes consulting, finding the best way to deal with this case. This needs wisdom. And this should not be ignored because this is ongoing and systematic. It's not good for that person. It's not good for me.
Thank you, Sheikh.
May Allah bless you, inshallah.
Thank you, Aga. Yeah, there is an announcement of tomorrow Dars Sunan Nabi by Sheikh Haidar.
May Allah bless you, inshallah.
Aga, you can conclude with dua.
Inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم ارحم موتانا، اللهم اقض حوائجنا، اللهم يسر أمورنا، اللهم بيض وجوهنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.